Working from home is one of those things that used to feel like a dream. No commute, more flexibility, your own space, your own routine. And in a lot of ways, it really is better. But the longer I've done it and the more people I've spoken to about their remote work experience, the more I've realised that it's actually kind of complicated. It's changing the way we work, yes, but it's also changing us. The way we think, the way we feel, and the way we experience time and connection. And honestly, I've started to wonder if working from home is actually as good for us as we thought. Like a lot of people, working from home really became the norm for the company that I work for during COVID, and it kind of stuck. Lots of people do 1 or 2 days in the office per week, some do none. Personally, I'll try and do a couple of days in the office and a couple from home. So today, I want to explore that, the good, the bad, the strange, and the human side of remote work. Not so much from a productivity angle, but from an emotional one. One of the biggest changes that happens when you work from home is how quietly your social world shrinks. When you're in an office, you get these little interactions that don't seem important at the time. The small talk in the kitchen area, the smile from someone you walk past, the "how was your evening" kind of chats. They're not deep conversations, but they are grounding. They keep you feeling connected to something outside of yourself. A lot of researchers call these micro-social interactions, and they actually boost mood more than we realise. When we lose them, our days get quieter, and not always in a good way. I can now relate to this. I like time to myself, probably more than most people, but if I have a few days at home, especially if you don't have many calls, I start to feel just a bit flat. Remote work gives you independence, but it can also make you feel strangely isolated, even if you're not alone in the house. It's a different kind of loneliness that kind of subtly creeps in. Something else that happens when you work from home is that home stops being home in the same way. Your living room becomes an office, your kitchen becomes your break room, your bedroom becomes, well, sometimes a place where you answer calls as well. The commute, which we used to complain about, actually served a really important purpose. It created a boundary. It told your brain, we're done with work now. Without that transition, your day becomes this vague, ongoing stream where you're not fully working, but you're not fully resting either. And something that I'm personally a big believer in is that the environment you're in plays a huge role in how you show up. When you physically move into a different space, like going to the office or stepping into a gym, your brain switches modes. The environment itself signals what you're there to do. It's why for me, training at a gym almost always feels different from trying to work out at home. The moment you walk into that space, you become the version of yourself who trains. The room, the energy, the people, they all do part of the work for you. But when your workspace and your living space are the same, that switch doesn't happen. You're using your brain to focus, create, perform, relax, unwind, and recharge, all within the same four walls. And over time, that makes focus harder to access. Not because you're lazy, but because your environment isn't giving your brain any cues. Some studies even show that remote workers unintentionally work longer hours because without a physical boundary, the line between work mode and home mode becomes almost impossible to maintain. And that lack of separation doesn't just change your routine, it changes the way you feel in your own home. Personally, this one definitely rings true. Home for me started feeling a bit less homey, to be honest. In the evenings, after you're meant to have finished work, something just feels a little bit different. Working from home is comfortable, sometimes too comfortable, and comfort is a double-edged sword. When your world shrinks to the size of your house, life can start feeling really repetitive. Days kind of blend into each other, routines become loops, and before you know it, you realise you haven't left the house in 2 days. Even people who love working from home sometimes describe this subtle sense of life becoming just flat. Yeah, it's convenient, but it feels flat. It's not dramatic enough to call it a crisis. It's just a quiet dulling of the senses. And I think that's why these things can be quite dangerous, because it can happen so subtly that you don't really notice it for a while. Suddenly, life just feels a bit smaller. Remote work also changes your sense of time. When every day happens in the same space, with the same background, the same walk from your bed to the desk, time starts to blur. This actually links back to something psychologists call context markers. Our brain uses changes in environment to break time into meaningful chunks. When everything happens in the same place, eating, working, relaxing, those markers fade away, which might explain why we have so many remote workers saying things like, "Didn't we just have Friday?" or "Where did this week go?" Working from home doesn't just change your schedule, it changes your experience of time itself. Another thing that changes when you work from home is the loss of small, reassuring signals that you're doing okay. In an office or another workplace, you get tiny bits of feedback all day. A co-worker saying, nice work. Someone nodding in a meeting. Maybe your manager thanks you for something in person. Or maybe you get an approving smile across the room as you put someone in their place. Or maybe you mess up. Someone overhears and reassures you that it wasn't that bad. At home, you lose all of that. You finish tasks in silence. You send work into the void. You don't get the same kind of human reassurance. And when you don't get small cues that you're doing okay, your mind starts filling in the gaps and the silence with doubt. This can quietly chip away at your confidence, even when your work is actually fine. Another thing we don't talk about is that not everybody has an ideal home environment. Some people work at the kitchen table, some share a flat and have noise. Some people work from their bedroom because there's literally nowhere else. Some people feel just cramped or disconnected. And when your physical space is limited, your mental space will be too. Working from home is easier for some people than others. I'm quite lucky because my home office is quite nice. I've got 2 big screens. It's not perfect. Sometimes the internet goes down. Sometimes there is a little bit of noise. Sometimes I get distractions, but it's pretty good. Almost no one has the perfect setup, and this can be quite frustrating for many reasons. Whether that's because it makes work feel more difficult, because the conditions themselves are annoying, or because you become unhappy with your productivity in those conditions. The truth is, working from home does have some real benefits. More flexibility, less commuting stress, more control, a calmer environment a lot of the time. But it also has real costs: isolation, blurred boundaries, monotony, subtle emotional strain. I hate the lack of conclusions to questions, so I am sorry. But the truth really is that it's not good or bad. It's both, and it impacts different people in different ways. But I think the important thing is this: we need to be aware of how it's shaping us and how it's affecting us, because when we understand what's happening, we can make healthier choices to control it. So what do I suggest doing about it? Well, as always, I'm absolutely not an expert, but after doing a bit of research and trialling a few things out for myself, I think I can make a few decent recommendations for you to try. This is a big one. Create your own boundaries. Even if they feel small, trust me, you have to do something to create the separation between work and non-work life. Here are a few ways to do that which I like. Create a fake commute. Before or after work, preferably both. Go for a walk. Use that as your separator and your trigger between work and non-work, so that, once that walk happens, your mode and your mindset changes. For me, this one really works. Another option would be to just do something as simple as shutting your laptop at a consistent time. When it's that time, just close it. Don't take it downstairs. Don't let the work bleed into your evening. Just close the laptop. Even small rituals tell your brain that work is now ending. As I've explained, our brains switch modes based on where we are. So even if your home is small, try creating different zones for different things. A spot where you work, a spot where you relax, a spot where you do hobbies. And if you ever feel stuck, change the environment entirely. Go to a library, a co-working space, even a coffee shop until they throw you out for buying 1 coffee in 4 hours. Sometimes the room you're in is the thing that's holding you back more than you realise, and that change of scenery will work wonders. Not texting, not Teams chat, actual human conversation. Even a short coffee catch-up can break the isolation loop and leave you feeling a bit less lonely and a bit less flat. As we alluded to earlier, work from somewhere else for the day. Change the order of your routine. Introduce novelty in some way, because sameness is what makes working from home feel so flat a lot of the time. So do something that makes one day feel different from the next. Some people thrive remotely, and some people slowly unravel without noticing it. And some fall somewhere in between. I probably fall into that category. Understanding your experience is the key to finding balance, and the key to making some tweaks, like the things we just mentioned, to give yourself the best chance of not bouncing off the walls. So anyway, it's clear that working from home has changed the world, but it's quietly changed us too. Some of those changes are positive, some are challenging. Some we're only just starting to understand, really. Working from home isn't just about flexibility or convenience, it's about learning how to take care of ourselves in a world where the boundaries between life and work are more blurred than ever. If you're working from home, or have been for a while, I'd love to hear how you find it, so feel free to drop a comment and let's talk about it. I'd love it if you stick around for the next video, so please subscribe because I have no subscribers. But until then, please take care of yourself and maybe step outside the house today.